Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, teacher. Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. I think we'll have holidays for a few days, first week of June. Okay. 5 days. Most probably we'll be having holidays for 5 days. Like you remember we had in May?
Yes, ma'am.
So most probably we'll have 5 days holidays in the first week of June also. That is why I picked up this chapter. This is a small, simple chapter which you have done in class 9. So you will not find it difficult to do. Plus, these 3 chapters are there in your UT syllabus as well. So I've taken up this chapter so that I can try and see how much we can do before the holidays. Most probably 1st to 5th should be a holiday. This is what I am expecting and what is informed. What is a cell? How have you been defining a cell in class 9? Yes. This is something we've already done. Yes, what is a cell?
Cell is the basic structure of fundamental unit of life.
Okay, basically structural and functional fundamentally. That means if the cell has a structure, it is because of the cell. If an organism, has a structure, it is because of cells. And if an organism is able to perform some function, again, it is because of a cell. That is why we call it a structural and functional unit. I hope everybody knows unicellular and multicellular organisms.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Unicellular organisms you have done, they are capable of independent existence. What is independent existence? Unicellular organisms are capable of independent existence. They can exist, they can survive independently. They do not need any other organism for their survival. Okay, this is independent existence. They are not into any symbiotic parasitic relationships. The same cell is able to perform all the functions, all the metabolic processes, whether it is respiration or it is excretion, whatever basic metabolic processes we have, the same cell can do. Okay. So we say that unicellular organisms are capable of, what is the word we use?
Independent existence.
Yes, very good. Understand it? That they are all capable. These are the characteristics we are doing of unicellular organisms. 2 characteristics. They are capable of independent existence and they can perform all essential functions of life. So these are the 2 characteristics of a unicellular organism. Anything less than a complete structure of a cell does not ensure independent living. Hence, cell is the fundamental structural and functional unit of all living organisms. If you do not have a complete cell, then they cannot be independent living. That is why we say nothing less than a cell. More than, of course, you have tissues and this, but there is nothing which is found which is smaller than a cell or lesser than a cell, which is able to live independently. That is why we define cell as a fundamental structure and functional unit of living organisms. This also Anton Leeuwenhoek, he was the first one who saw and he also described a living cell. Then Robert Brown later discovered the nucleus. Everybody knows this now? Who discovered protoplasm? Who discovered protoplasm? Bache, who discovered protoplasm? Who discovered nucleus? Class 11 bio students. Who discovered the cell? Okay, let me start from here.
Robert Hooke.
Okay, who discovered the nucleus?
Robert Brown.
Robert Brown.
Robert Brown. And one more thing we all need to remember is protoplasm, the material which is filled inside the cell. Protoplasm, Purkinje. Who discovered it?
J. Perkin.
Easiest way to remember P for protoplasm and P for Purkinje. This is how we can simply remember P for protoplasm and P for Purkinje. You've already done cell theory again in class 9th. Tell me who proposed the cell theory.
Sheridan and Schwann.
Everybody remembers?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay, Sheridan and Schwann. Matthew Sheridan, Theodor Schwann. Matthew Sheridan, he was a German botanist. He examined large number of plants, and what did he find? He found that all plants are composed of different kinds of cells, and then cells combine to form tissues. At the same time, we had another person. He was a British zoologist. There is a difference. He was a German, he was a British, he was a botanist, he was a zoologist. So he was studying animal cells. Sheridan was studying plant cells, and Schwann was studying animal cells because he was a botanist and he was a zoologist. He reported that cells, they had a thin outer layer, which we now call as what? What is that outer layer now called as?
Cell wall.
Plasma
Mhm.
membrane.
Actually, plasma. Cell wall was discovered later, beta. So after he did his experiments on animal tissues, then he conducted some of his studies on plant tissues also. And then he said that how plant cells are different from animal cells. Schwann told us that there is what is present in plant cells?
Cell wall.
Yes, cell wall. So it was Schwann who proposed the hypothesis that the bodies of animals and plants are composed of cells and how plant cells are different from animal cells. Schwann, a zoologist, so he was obviously studying animals. So he studied and he said that outer membrane is plasma membrane. Then he wanted to check out whether we have the same outer membrane in plants also. So he did a little study on plants and he found that we have an extra cover that is cell wall. Sheridan and Schwann then together formulated the cell theory. So when Schwann got to know that there's another person who's working on plants, so both of them came together with their research and they together gave this cell theory. This theory, however, did not explain as to how cells were formed. Cell theory was very good, but the main problem in cell theory was they were talking about cells, but they could not answer the question that how these cells were formed. They kept on telling about cells, but they could not tell how these cells were formed. So we had Rudolf Virchow, who first explained that cells divided and new cells are formed from pre-existing cell. See, this is a sentence which we relate with Virchow. It says omnis cellula e cellula. Old cells give rise to new cells. He modified the hypothesis of Sheridan and Schwann to give the cell theory a final shape, which we say modification of the cell theory. What does it say? The modern cell theory, only 2 points. All living organisms are composed of cells and productive cells, and a cell arises from pre-existing cells. So this is all about the history of cells, children. Okay. Who discovered the cell? You've already told me. And living cell, who saw for the first time and described it?
Anton van Leeuwenhoek.
Yes. Then we had two people who came up with the cell theory. In the beginning, they were working separately. Sheridan, he was who was he?
German botanist.
Yes. So he was working on plants or animals?
Plants.
Yes. Similarly, we had Schwann. He was a botanist or zoologist.
Zoology.
So he was working on plants or
Animals.
animals. So the first thing which Schwann said that all animals, the outermost covering is what it called as, what is it called as? Plasma membrane. But in, yes, Bache, but in plant cells, what is there extra?
Cell wall.
Yes. So both of them came together and they proposed what we call as the cell theory. But there was one big drawback in the cell theory, which both of them could not answer. What was it?
How cells
How
form.
are the cells formed?
Very good. How cells are formed. So basically, we had another person who came up to justify the cell theory and to give the correct explanation. What was his name?
Rudolf Virchow.
Yes, Rudolf Virchow. And then after he did some modifications, we are left with only 2 points in the cell theory. What is the first point?
All living organisms are composed of cells and productive cells, and all cells arise from pre-existing cells.
Very good, excellent. This is history of cell. Now, overview of cell. Take only a minute, read quickly. Overview of cell. Then let's go ahead. I hope you remember NCERT questions have to be posted by Sunday.
Ma'am, on the group or personal?
Post it on the group, beta.
Okay, ma'am.
Post on the group and Sunday evening. I'll give you a time slot where the time where everybody would post so that I can check and keep a record who all have done, who all have not done. Don't post randomly anytime, any day. I'll give a time and a day because then they all get mixed up in the group messages. I'll not be able to find them. Tell me, what did you read, beta? Quickly. Not finished reading? Finished or not yet? You don't even tell anything, beta.
Finished.
See, earlier, finished? Okay. Earlier, the cells which were observed were basically taken from which plant cell, basically? The scientists used to take? See the first line of the paragraph and answer my question.
Onion.
Yes, onion peel. And if you wanted to study something from humans, then it was extracted from?
Human cheek.
Human
Yes.
cheek.
So this pattern still continues because these are the places where the most easiest way we can extract the cells. If we think about the structures, we remember that onion cell is a plant cell or an animal cell?
Plant cell.
Plant cell. So how many
Plant
outer?
cell.
Good, Bicha. How many outer coverings will it have?
2.
1 or 2?
2.
Yes, 2 because it's a plant cell. So which are the 2? Can we have the names?
Cell wall and
Cell
plasma
wall and cell membrane.
Yes, there's a cell wall, there's a cell membrane. But if you go for the cells of the human cheek, how many membranes would be there?
1.
1. Because it's which cell? Plant cell or an animal cell?
Animal cell.
Animal cell.
So this is the outer part of a cell, the outer membrane difference. Then if we remove the cell wall or cell membrane and we go inside the cell, we will find another membrane bound structure, which is called as the nucleus. Everybody is aware of the structure of a cell. So when we go inside, we'll find another membrane bound structure. What do you mean by membrane bound structure? Membrane bound structure means, does nucleus have a membrane or it does not have nucleus? Nucleus does not have membrane. It has a membrane, nuclear membrane. So that is why we say the nucleus is a membrane bound structure. Is it okay, children? Now we'll go inside the nucleus. First, we entered the cell and we saw that first we had outer membranes which were known as plasma membrane, and what was it known as? Cell wall. What were they called?
Plasma
Plasma
membrane and
membrane and cell wall. Now, once we go inside, we'll find the nucleus. What is there inside the nucleus? Any idea? You remember? You've already done it.
nucleolus, nucleoplasm,
Yes.
chromatin material.
So this chromatin material forms chromosomes, and chromosomes contain what?
DNA.
DNA.
Which is considered to be the genetic material. So this is just an overview. We know about this. Cells that have membrane-bound nuclei are called eukaryotic. This also we know. And those which lack a membrane-bound nucleus are prokaryotic cells. Everybody knows the difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Whether it is a prokaryotic cell or a eukaryotic cell, you'll have a semi-fluid substance which is called cytoplasm, which is filled inside the cell. Cytoplasm is the main arena of cellular activities in both plants and animal cells. Whatever activities are going to take place in the cell, mainly they're going to take place where? In which part? See this word? Cytoplasm.
Cytoplasm.
That is why it is known as the main arena. Arena, you know, where Pahalwans fight. So whatever they have to do in that area only. So we see all the activity in the plant cell and animal cell, the arena is always the cytoplasm. There are a lot of chemical reactions which occur in the cell. Besides the nucleus, we are talking about eukaryotic cells now. They have other structures also, membrane-bound structures, which are known as
Organelles.
Organelles.
Yes. But prokaryotic cells do not have these organelles. So we've got two differences between prokaryotic and eukaryotic till now. They have a membrane-bound nucleus. They do not have a membrane-bound nucleus. They have membrane-bound organelles. They do not have membrane-bound organelles. We've done two differences. All these are organelles, Golgi, lysosomes, mitochondria. They are all same. One more thing. The prokaryotic cells lack such membrane-bound organelles. This is the second difference. Ribosomes are non-membrane-bound organelles. See, just now we said that organelles are basically membrane-bound structures, but we have organelles which do not have membrane, non-membrane-bound organelles. Which example we've just taken?
Ribosome.
Yes. Ribosome is a very special organelle. It's very different from others. See, there are two main differences. One, we said organelles have a membrane, but they do not have a membrane. Another, we said prokaryotes do not have organelles. But ribosomes are present both in eukaryotes as well as prokaryotes. So this is how ribosome is different from others. Other cell organelles have a membrane-bound structure, but ribosomes are non-membrane bound. The other differences, mainly these organelles, you will find them in eukaryotic cells. This sentence says prokaryotic cells lack membrane-bound organelles. But ribosome is one organelle which you will find in both which kind of cells?
Eukaryotes and prokaryotes.
Eukaryotic and eukaryotic cells.
It is a very interesting structure. See, you will find it in the cell and not only in the cytoplasm of the cell. This organelle is again found within two other organelles also. You will find it in chloroplasts in plants and mitochondria and on rough endoplasmic reticulum. So this is a structure. This is the organelle which is different from others. Number one, it is non-membrane bound. Number two, it is found in both eukaryotic and prokaryotic. Normally, we know that cell organelles are found where? In the cytoplasm. So this is of course found in the cytoplasm, but apart from this, you will also find it in chloroplasts in the plants, and you may find it on mitochondria and on rough ER. What is rough ER?
Rough
Endoplasmic
endoplasmic reticulum.
Yes, Bache. Animal cells, they have one non-membrane. See, animal cells have one non-membrane bound structure, that was ribosomes. We've already discussed. Other cell organelles are membrane bound. So animal cells have one non-membrane bound structure, that was ribosome. Apart from one ribosome, they have one more non-membrane bound organelle, which is called centriole. What is it called?
Centriole.
Centriole.
This helps in cell division. So if I ask you, okay, name two non-membrane bound organelles found in animal cells.
Ribosomes and centriole.
Yes. Centriole, what is the function? What is the function?
It helps in cell division.
Yes, Pichi. Cells differ in size, shape, activities. See these mycoplasmas, the smallest cells, they're only 0.3 micrometers in length. These are the different shapes. Bacteria could be 3 to 5 micrometers. The largest isolated single cell is the egg of an ostrich. I think this also you have done. Among multicellular organisms, the human RBCs are 7 micrometers in diameter. Nerve cells are some of the longest cells. Cells vary in shape also. They may be disc, polygonal, columnar, cuboid, thread-like, irregular. Whatever is going to be the shape of the cell actually depends upon the function that they are performing. Whatever function they will perform, that will be the shape of the cells. Just an overview, you can have, see, there are so many kinds of cells. Shape is different, size is different. So cells differ in shape and size. Okay, now let me have a quick revision here. Apart from nucleus, these cells have membrane-bound organelles. Which cells have, prokaryotic or eukaryotic?
Eukaryotic.
Eukaryotic.
But prokaryotes also have one non-membrane-bound organelle. What is it?
Ribosomes.
Ribosome.
Good. You will find ribosomes in another organelle in plant. Which organelle?
Chloroplast.
Chloroplast.
Name two organelles in animals where you will find ribosomes.
Mitochondria and rough
Mitochondria.
Mitochondria and Raphiar.
Okay. So, which are the two non-membrane bound organelles which are found in animal cells?
Ribosomes and centriole.
And what is the function of centriole?
It helps in cell division.
Yes, it helps in cell division. Prokaryotic cells is the next topic that we are going to read. I took up this chapter because we just have 3-4 days working now. And if I leave a chapter in the middle, then I feel I need to start again. Read quickly prokaryotic organisms. Let me explain it to you. Finished reading? We're talking about which cells, eukaryotic or prokaryotics?
Prokaryotic.
Just now we talked about prokaryotic difference between eukaryotic and prokaryotic. Very quickly, who will tell me the main difference between eukaryotic and prokaryotic organisms? What is the main difference between eukaryotes and prokaryotes? Bache, you know it very well. Does the nucleus have a nuclear membrane in prokaryotes?
No, ma'am.
Because that is the main difference, that the nucleus does not have a nuclear membrane. So all that stuff which is inside the nucleus is all scattered inside the cell. But in eukaryotes, you have a proper nuclear membrane, so you have a proper well-organized nucleus. So all your chromatin material, genetic material, DNA, whatever is there inside the nucleus is very well organized in a sac-like structure, which is the nucleus. But in prokaryotes, what happens is we do have the genetic material, but we do not have the nuclear membrane which surrounds it. So it's all scattered. The genetic material is all scattered here and there. This is the main difference. Then we did one more difference about cell organelles, that membrane bound cell organelles are found in eukaryotes, but they're not found in prokaryotes. However, there was one exception. What exception? Which organelle which is also found in prokaryotes?
Ribosomes.
Ribosomes.
Yes. Now we are moving on to prokaryotes. Fine. See, if you talk about prokaryotes, you will see that they're generally the prokaryotic cells. They're represented by bacteria, blue-green algae, and mycoplasma and PPLO. What are PPLOs? Full form of PPLO? Pleuropneumonia-like organisms. Please speak out the full form of PPLO.
Pleuropneumonia-like organism.
So we have basically 4 categories of prokaryotic cells. Number 1 is bacteria. Number 2 is
Blue algae,
Blue-green algae.
green algae. Number 3,
mycoplasma,
very good. And the 4th one we just did was?
PPLO.
PPLO.
See, one more difference we are coming to prokaryotes and eukaryotes. If we come and compare the size of prokaryotes and eukaryotes, you will find that the prokaryotes are generally smaller than the eukaryotes. The 4th difference, the prokaryotes, they multiply more rapidly than the eukaryotic cells. 2 differences we had already done in the previous paragraphs. The nucleus does not have a membrane and they do not have membrane bound organelles except for what, children?
Ribosomes.
Ribosomes. Now compare the size. 3rd difference we are coming to prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Compare the size. Tell me, which ones are bigger, which ones are smaller?
Eukaryotes are bigger and prokaryotes are smaller.
Very good. Now compare the rate of division, multiplication of prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Who will multiply?
Prokaryotes.
Prokaryotes will multiply at a faster speed or eukaryotes will multiply?
Prokaryotes will multiply faster.
Yes. That is the reason that whenever you see bacteria, even in 1 centimeter area, you find thousands and lakhs of bacteria at a particular place. Even in a very small place, if you count the number of bacteria, the number is always greater than the eukaryotes because the rate of multiplication is very, very high. They have different shapes and size. The 4 basic shapes of bacteria we've done, rod-like, they're known as, if it's a rod-like bacteria, what is it called?
Bacillus.
Bacillus.
Good. And if it is spherical,
Coccus.
if it is comma-shaped, yes, if it is comma-shaped, what do you call it as? Yes, yes, loudly, bache.
Bacillus.
Comma-shaped, comma-shaped.
Vibrio.
Vibrio, very good. And if it is spiral-shaped, then?
Spirilla.
So we have 4 different shapes of bacteria. Now we'll do the other way around. I'll speak the names, you will tell me the shape. Bacillus,
Like
coccus,
Spherical.
spherical.
vibrio,
Comma.
Comma shaped.
and spiral.
Spiral.
Spirillum.
Yes. Spiralum, you told me spiral shape. So what all is there in this paragraph? We got 4 main categories of prokaryotic organisms. I'll be asking you the names very soon. 4 categories of prokaryotic organisms. Second, we got two more differences between prokaryotes and eukaryotes, and we got the four shapes, common shapes of bacteria. The organization of the prokaryotic cell is fundamentally similar, even though prokaryotes exhibit a wide variety of shapes and functions. Doesn't make a difference whether a bacteria is rod-like or it is spherical. Their working, their metabolism would be almost similar. That will not change according to the shape. All prokaryotes have a cell wall surrounding the cell membrane. See, this is a very unique feature. We are keeping them closer to plant cells or animal cells. Whom are we finding them closer when it comes to the presence of outer membranes? They resemble whom? Prokaryotes. Plant cells or animal cells, if we talk about the outer membranes. Tell me. Animal cells, sure. Read the sentence. All prokaryotes have. Just read the sentence.
Plant
How many
cell.
membranes? Yes. See, because all prokaryotes, they have two membranes. The outer one, cell wall, and then they have a cell membrane, children. So when we talk about the outer membrane structure, these prokaryotes are closer to plant cells or animal cells? Who has two membranes, plant cell or animal cell? Plant cell. So all the prokaryotes, when we talk about the outer protective membranes, they resemble plant cells because they have two membranes. Then we have the matrix, that is the cytoplasm, which is filled, but there is no well-defined nucleus. This is the main difference we have because it's prokaryotic cell. When I say there is no well-defined nucleus, means there is no nuclear membrane which surrounds the nucleus. The genetic material is basically naked. It is not enveloped by a nuclear membrane. In addition to the genomic DNA, okay, when I say genomic DNA, we mean what? Chromosome and circular DNAs. Genomic DNA means you have your chromosomes and circular DNAs. There are many bacteria which have small circular DNA outside the genomic DNA. These small DNAs are called plasmids. Understand it. We generally said that DNA is found in the nucleus, right? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So that DNA which contains genes and is found in the nucleus is called as the genomic DNA. Genes it contains. So what do we call the DNA as? Genomic DNA. What is this DNA called?
Genomic DNA.
Genomic DNA.
But these prokaryotes, they have extra DNAs now. Small circular DNAs outside the nucleus. See, whenever I say nucleus in prokaryotes, keep in mind that we are talking about a unclear region. We are not talking about a proper nucleus with membrane. We can have a specific area which we can consider as a nuclear area. We do not have a membrane, of course. So all the chromosomal material is lying in that area. We can assume that yes, this is a nuclear area, but there is no membrane. Towards the edges, outside the nucleus, we have some extra DNAs. Okay, these are small DNAs. Compared to the normal genomic DNA, these DNAs are smaller ones. What do we call them as? Plasmids. What do we call them?
Plasmids.
Plasmids. These plasmids in details you will study in class 12th. They are an important part of biotechnology. All the biotechnology is based on plasmids only. Whatever we are doing in biotechnology today, we are doing with the help of plasmids. So plasmid is, when we say plasmid, we mean extra nuclear DNA. Extra nuclear DNA, the DNA which is not present in the nucleus. Apart from the DNA that we have in the nucleus, we have some extra smaller DNA outside the nucleus also. That DNA is what we call as, what is that called as?
Plasmids.
Plasmids. So we have two kinds of DNA in prokaryotes. One which is inside the nuclear area, that is known as which DNA, children? We just did the word because it contains genes and all
Genomic
that.
DNA.
Very good. Apart from the genomic DNA, we have other extra DNAs, smaller DNAs made though. What are these smaller DNAs, extra DNAs called?
Plasmids.
Plasmids.
It is because of the plasmids that the bacteria have unique characters. Unique characters are present because they have two DNAs now. One DNA which is in the nuclear area, that is a genomic DNA, and they have some extra DNA which is known as the plasmid. Because of the presence of plasmids, these bacteria, they show some special characteristics. Okay. One such character is resistance to antibiotics. And these bacteria, they are resistant to what?
Antibiotics.
Antibiotics. And this property which the bacteria have got is because of the presence of what?
Plasmids.
Because of the presence of plasmids. Please keep in mind, because this is there in detail in class 12th as well. So they are resistant to antibiotics. Whatever antibiotic you give, they will not be affected by it at all. So they are resistant to antibiotic. In higher classes, you will learn that this plasmid DNA is used to monitor bacterial transformation with foreign DNA. In biotechnology, we use this when we insert a foreign DNA. Foreign DNA means a DNA taken from one organism and inserted into the other organism. We call it as a foreign DNA. Now we want to check, supposing we put a foreign DNA into a host body, and we want to check that yes, that DNA has reached or not. Then we take the help of these plasmids. We take the help of whom?
Plasmids.
Plasmids. Okay, we just want to check whether the foreign DNA which we have put in the organism, has it reached there? Is it working or not? We take the help of plasmids. I'll tell you how we take the help of plasmid. देखो बेटा, plasmid की main characteristic क्या है? जिसमें भी जाएगा, that organism will become resistant to what?
Antibiotics.
Antibiotics. Very good. So what will I do? I want to insert a foreign DNA. I will send it through a plasmid. Plasmid is going to carry my DNA, foreign DNA. So the plasmid will carry the foreign DNA, and then I'll test whether the host, when I say host, I mean the organism in which the foreign DNA has been inserted. I'll simply check out whether my host has become resistant to what?
Antibiotics.
Antibiotic. If it has become resistant, that means the foreign DNA which I had inserted has reached the host cell. Otherwise, it has not. This is how plasmids help us. They generally carry. One such character.
Ma'am, but what if plasmids are already present in the host cell?
We generally insert them in eukaryotes, beta. When we talk about biotechnology, we do transformations in eukaryote cells with the help of plasmids. So do we have plasmids in eukaryotes?
No, ma'am.
We don't have. So basically biotechnology, whenever we are doing some changes in eukaryote cells, we want to insert some characteristic in a particular eukaryote. So for that, what will we do? We will take that gene which is responsible for that character, and we want that gene to go inside the host so that host can develop that character. But we directly cannot insert the gene. We need somebody to take that gene inside. And here comes to our help who? Plasmids. Who will come to our help?
Plasmids.
Plasmids. So we can easily take their help. We can cut a plasmid very easily. Plasmids are generally circular DNAs. You'll study in class 12. We can easily cut them with the help of some enzymes which are known as scissors, molecular scissors. That also you will study later. We can easily cut DNA with the help of these enzymes. So we cut the DNA at one place. And when we cut the DNA, at that point, we insert our foreign DNA, whichever foreign gene you want to send. Again, we join the DNA. We have special enzymes which are called ligases. They will again join back the DNA and make the plasmid. And then the plasmid is inserted into the host body. The plasmid is going to carry the foreign gene into the host. But now we need to ensure that yes, the plasmid has carried the gene successfully. It has reached inside. It has become proper place. So how do we get to know? We check whether the host has become resistant to